The Say Something podcast is brought to you by amomentwithmorris.com and blackblueprints.com. That's blackblueprints with a Z.com. I am Jermaine Morris here with the one and only Mr. Barry Accius.
Blessings and love, people of America.
Bringing you the Say Something podcast.
Say something, say something, say something.
Where we get together and talk about everything out here in this life, in this world, in these streets.
In these cold streets.
Stuff that we, as in myself and Barry, feel that not only us, but everybody should be saying something about.
Indeed.
Bringing you episode number 33 to your dome piece.
Coming for 45 with a bullet.
Hitting you with that Kareem, hitting you with that sky hook.
You got an athlete for every number, huh?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Tony Dorsett, that works too.
Interesting.
Dorsett, he was solid. A lot going on since we was together last week. We come together every week. We drop new episodes on Wednesdays. They can be found at each of our social media platforms as well as SoundCloud.com. You can go to the Say Something podcast with Jermaine Morris and Barry Accius and go through the archives, get all the past shows.
And we also going to be coming with this Say Something t-shirts. They coming soon. Yes,
because I wanted to make sure I give a special shout out to his IG is at BB Sketch, BBSKETCH, and he's taking care of the graphics for the visuals.
It's about to be crazy.
So follow that gentleman, very very talented, very very talented at BB Sketch. Shout out and holler at him one time. Lots going on in the last 7 days, Barry.
Every time we turn around, there's somebody's beefing. There's somebody coming out the closet. There's somebody upset about something that you said, about their gender. There is number 45, a.k.a. the pussy grabber, firing somebody else. The shit don't stop, bro.
So last episode, we talked about the state of R&B, where it was, from Usher, who had it bad, who got it bad, to Robert Kelly, the Pied Piper of
being R. Kelly.
Colton.
Let's just say that. Being R. Kelly.
And so it seems like R&B can't catch a break.
Not right now.
Because coming off of the Usher herpes incident, the R. Kelly sex cult scandal, another R&B singer got caught out there in the traffic this week. One Mr. Bobby Valentino.
Ooh, them jeans. Ba-da-da-da. That first album though that he came out with, I got first before we
slow down and tell me and all that stuff.
That shit was the truth.
Yeah, I mean he's about the size of Webster, but he's
them girls don't care. Bobby V, but Bobby V got a story and a secret to tell.
Yeah, I remember doing a couple shows with the brother a few years back.
Yeah, you told me you had a little story about him.
Yeah, so I mean, my personal experience, I got nothing bad to say about the brother. And realistically, to each his own. Whatever your get down is
your get down.
I ain't here to judge, but
we're here to say something.
Apparently, R. Kelly ain't the only one trapped in the closet.
So, before you get in, as you do get in and break it down, I just have to ponder and try to figure out, how do you explain flossing the way you was flossing when you knew who you was flossing with? You get what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When they were doing the whole selfie pics and things of that nature, and he had some of his boys, of his
who separated themselves.
Oh, they've definitely separated
they publicly
themselves.
made a point to draw a line in the sand.
But you're suspect to me if you're in that zone and in that moment, and evidently out there in ATL, shouted, there's some things that these brothers are doing on the low, right?
Yeah, and before we even get in on Bobby, because something about Atlanta, because Atlanta gets a whole lot of attention. So if you don't, Atlanta is known as the Black Gay Mecca. So for years, when people associated homosexual men, they would associate San Francisco.
Yeah.
That was the joke, from the 70s, 80s, early 90s. You would always talk about the Bay Area. Since then, the tide has changed, and the black homosexual population, black male homosexual population in Atlanta is ridiculous.
It's blown up.
Real quick story.
I've got hit on a few times over there too.
My first ATL experience. First time I was out there.
Come on.
And it's funny. So I was there.
Was it doing the Freaknik?
Nah. I'm not quite that age bracket.
Okay.
I think it was gone by the time I was out there. So I was there for this business thing for 3 days.
Okay.
And so just me went by myself. So I get to Atlanta and I had the first day to myself just to kind of just do whatever. And so Puffy has a restaurant out there at the time.
Justin's. That shit went hard.
Yeah. So I'm like, and this is early 2000s. So I'm like, Puffy got a restaurant. I'm like, I'm all about that. Like, so let me get down there and see what it's about. So I go to the restaurant and there's like so as I get there, like the entranceway, like there's a couple brothers who were kind of huddled up, just kind of talking BS and shooting the breeze. And so waiting for a table, I had a conversation with them all of 3 minutes. And so then I got a table. It wasn't busy at the time. It was during the day. Like, sun was still up. And so I go sit down at the table, and as I'm sitting there, the waitress comes by, and she's like, are you waiting for anybody? I'm like, no, I'm cool. And she was just saying, I don't mean to be rude. She doubled back about 2-3 times, asked me if I needed anything in like a real short period of time. And so she's like, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful. She said, but do you like girls? And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, no disrespect. Like no disrespect. I was like, no. I said, not disrespect. I'm confused. I said, what do you like? You mean like kids? Like children? She's like, or you mean like women? Like, what do you mean? She's like, you like women? Are you into women? I was like, yeah. I said, why, what's up? And so she said, just some of the girls were asking. Like some of the waitresses, whatever, she was asking. Because I guess talking to me, she could hear that I wasn't from there. And just looking at me like, so she was just checking to see, what, just more or less just throwing the feelers out there just to see, what was up, what was good. And I was like, yeah, but that's kind of weird that you would even ask. She said, do me a favor, just look around. And I was like, what? She said, just look around the room. And as I started looking around the restaurants, there weren't any really mixed couples at the table.
Wow.
You see a group of women, couple guys, group of women, like you didn't see couples. And so she said, yeah, we wasn't sure because of those guys you were talking to earlier, because they're like regulars.
Yeah.
Gay dudes at the bar who I said hello to. I said, oh, no, I was just saying hi. She said, do you know where you are? I'm like, in Atlanta. She said, nah. Do you know, like, and she put me up on it. She said, down here, like, there ain't a whole, like, most of the dudes down here ain't into girls.
Wow.
She said, just really, she's like, really look around. She said, it's like 7-1 female to male if you down here trying to find a woman. She said, because the brothers out here ain't checking for the girls down here.
That's nuts, man.
And
there is beautiful women out there.
Yeah. Like I said, I was there for 3 days and I had a good time.
Man, I'm telling you, I just was in Atlanta. Shouts out to my cousin, Action, when he was out there filming the Ricky Smiley show. I was out there doing some work with him. And I just remember being out there for 3-4 days. Just remember the nostalgia of Atlanta and just how much I missed it. Because I ain't been there for a few years. But it has really turned up on the homosexual population out there. Yeah. On all levels. And I think that, what I don't like about this whole Bobby V thing, this transgender thing, it's that we can't have a real opinion on it. Because it seems like when you have an opinion on it, as we go deeper into the conversation, as one of the brothers is getting hell for it, and even a radio station is getting hell for some of the things that another brother said about what he would do if he was caught with the transgender, or someone he was messing with said, oh, I'm that. It's like you say something bad or something that other people don't agree with, people are up in this big storm and they want to ban you. They want to tell you that you're homophobic, that, transgender lives matter. And I get all that, but it's almost like, wow, black folks have created a subdivision that you're not only black, but you're transgender, or you're gay, or you're a gangster, or it's just like, man.
And that those lines only apply to us because everybody else just sees black. And the reason why I was using that story to preface going to Atlanta is back then, dudes were, that's, I guess, the down low era. These was dudes in shirts and ties.
Now it's the upfront era.
Which is why which was going to take me to this, is that when I was there, the dudes were suit and tie, straight laced dudes, little on the Ralph Tresvant side of the game. Like they look like it might be a little sensitive, but maybe like an S curl, like it just looked like but you could pass it. Now everything is super flamboyant, dudes rocking a pink tank top, and then this is no disrespect if that's your get down. So let me preface that. But now it's the point to where instead of I'm going to put up this front and not be myself because I'm not sure how people will receive me.
Yeah.
Now it's kick in the door, wave in the fofo, you won't accept me. I'm here. You need to deal with it. I'm no longer worried about how you receive me.
But here's the thing. The fact that you have to sit there and put an exclaimer on what you're about to say is frustrating. Because we can't have a conversation without people being frustrated when it comes to dealing with the population that is transgender, gay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like, and I get it. I mean, be who you want to be. I think it's weird in certain levels. I feel like God created us, or whatever creator we want to pretend is there or not there to be a certain way. I don't mind if you feel like you need to be touched with some reality that you feel is knocking on your door, knob in your head, whatever. That's what you do. But why can't we just have a conversation? And if I'm not really feeling it, just be like, okay, it's not really feeling it. But that doesn't mean I will hate you and I will kill you. But man, nowadays, brothers got to really pay attention and got to look closely on who they dating now.
Yeah.
Because you can get caught up.
Because you have to preface it. This is the funny part. If this was a race issue where you were going to say, I don't have an issue with black people, but people would look at you sideways, or, there must be something crazy that you would even say that, no, I've got black friends or I've got white friends. It sounds crazy. But you have to make that same disclaimer when you're addressing the LGBT community. Like, you have to set that up with, no disrespect. Typically, any sentence that follows no disrespect is disrespectful. But you have to preface that. And now it's the case where, and the reason why that shift is important is because what was once before the idea was, I need to watch my P's and Q's for how I'm going to come across to other people, to now it's, I don't even have to tell you what it is because I'm just living my life. So you have like the trans community where before it was, let me inch that closet door open.
Yeah.
Let me just see what the temperature is, because I don't want to come too flamboyant and then deal with the backlash.
They living their life, bro.
Now it's they queer, they here, get over it.
They living their life, and they're exposing individuals now as well.
Yes. So back to the why this all ties into
Big Bobby V.
Why R&B is just on the ropes.
Jeez.
Singer out of Atlanta, Bobby Valentino, just got caught up with a transsexual,
and it ain't going away.
No. And the two part to this is why this is an important factor and why he's handling it the way he is, because it piggybacks off of the Lil Duval situation. Mm-hmm. In the same week, by some sheer coincidence, is that comedian actor Lil Duval just was might know him from Guy Code and Meet the Blacks, and just for folks, if you little dude, kind of bobblehead, got big head. He was just on the Breakfast Club. And they were addressing the trans community because he's got his sister is gay, and they do a podcast together, and he always jokes, my gay sister, whatever. And they just had a transsexual on the show that same week on the Breakfast Club. So then the ball got thrown to Lil Duval, like, what would you do if you hooked up with a transsexual who didn't tell you? You hooked up with a woman who used to be a man, and you didn't find out until later down the road that she was actually born a man.
Yeah.
And his knee-jerk response was to say that he'd kill him.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, Charlemagne jumped in and said, hey, that's a hate crime. You can't turn around and say that you would kill somebody. And Lil Duval was like, look, if that happened, I ain't saying anybody deserved to die, but I know who I am. And in the moment, if I found out that this was a dude, might be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing.
That's like going back to what we talked about, on our last podcast. Well, individuals have to expose if they have a disease.
Yeah.
Right?
Usher getting sued because he didn't tell folks he had herpes.
Okay, and then here's a situation like if someone gave you AIDS, how would you take it?
Against the law, if you have HIV knowingly and don't tell your sexual partner, that's manslaughter.
So when you look at his reaction, it's a real reaction. Not saying that he'll go and do it, but in the reaction, that's what it is. But keep going.
That's where his head was at, and that was his initial response. And he even was saying, I don't have an issue with. He said, in this particular scenario, if he had slept with somebody and found out it was a man, that's where his brain went to for a question he was asked. Since then, the LBGT community has come after Lil Duval with both barrels, all the way to the point to where they blamed Charlemagne specifically,
because he's an easy target,
for saying that he gives homophobic rhetoric, that anti-LBGT information out there. He was speaking on something completely separate, and the LBGT community came out to protest and trying to hold the station responsible for the comments of one guest at one time. Even though nobody on the panel, Envy, Charlemagne, or Angela Yee, nobody co-signed Lil Duval's comment. None of them. They're trying to come after them because that's the full flexing power of what the LBGT community is now. Like if they are deep. Like deep in the streets, deep pockets, deep personnel, like they're coming after him. So now where that ties into Bobby Valentino is that he's real clear about trying to address that he's not into men. Very carefully worded that if he ever took a picture with somebody or knew somebody who was maybe trans or gay or whatever, they're roasting him now. But he can't even go one for one or really directly address it because all the backlash that's going on, and I think he was probably tipped off like, this ain't the fight you want. Like, you just might have to take this on the chin and put out some good music. Because if you start talking I would never, and this, that, whatever, and the third, your career is over.
Well, you need to just be honest. If you're dating trans, you're dating trans. If that's what it is. When
all your music is catered towards women.
Well, what's the young bull's name? That came out and said he was homosexual.
Ocean?
Yeah, Frank Ocean. But you see what happened to his career after he did that. But bro, this situation is so alarming to me that I remember just putting up a post about Kris Jenner. Yeah. Right? Catalina Jenner now, right?
Oh, Caitlyn, you mean?
Caitlyn Jenner? Is it
okay,
Caitlyn
Jenner? Kris is the Kardashian, the mom.
Okay, well, no, it's Bruce Jenner.
So Bruce Jenner's now Caitlyn Jenner.
Well, shoot, it might as well been Kris Jenner anyway, right? Yeah. Okay, so Bruce Jenner, and it's Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Caitlyn is, yeah.
Okay, he's now Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Yeah.
I want to get this right.
I got it.
Okay, because I don't want to upset anybody. And now, I put up, it was wild. It was like, it was when he first came out, and he came out, he was on magazines, and I made a comment, and I'm telling you, man, they came for me. Yeah. I put a comment about that, and they said he is not a he's a she. Yeah. And matter of fact, don't even say the he is she. I was like, whoa. What I know him for is the man that was on my Wheaties when I ate. Right?
Bruce.
So it's almost jumped to where we look at the problems that the black community has, that it's separate. Yeah. Right? Oh, no. We're separating ourselves from black issues, where now we're so split from these different factions that black people, not only are we lost in a sense of we don't have our own sovereign country and land, we don't even know what the hell we want to be. You know what I'm saying? Because everyone is changing multiple directions, and I don't know which way to go. But what I don't like, and I can't stand Negroes or females that's hiding in this closet, and when they get caught up and get exposed, they pretend like, nothing's going on. Mr. C did it
for years.
You understand what
For
I'm saying?
years getting caught
with trans.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie Murphy had an incident.
Yeah. I was just giving him a ride.
Yeah, right. I'd rather you be honest about what it is. And when I heard about it, because I was trying not to get into it, I don't really try to get into the gossipy thing, because there's so many different issues that we have, especially in America. Just thinking about the whole presidential, chaotic White House that we have currently, you think like, man, why are we focusing on any of this stuff? We need to be worried about if we're going to go to war with Russia or Korea, or if the president is he really supposed to be our president? But that's going to be on another podcast. You look at it and you say to yourself, well, God damn, who is legit? And then it's like, okay, if you're saying you're not into this,
yeah,
well, why the hell was you smiling and cheesing when you and the homeboys? That's when I really started looking into the story. When I saw that, I was like, I'm looking at the girls, and they didn't look like regular girls.
Now you can see them. I mean, granted, there's a percentage. You could probably find a nice thin slice that, at face value, you could say is a woman. But the bulk that I've seen, I can't see the bulk in life. I'm going off the bulk that I've seen.
Bulk.
A little strong in the face.
Listen, and so why was Young Jock? Why was Little Scrappy there? Me, that's just not my cup of tea, bro.
I say that because I've known of my little brief stint working in music profession, there was a lot of homosexuality. B, there were trans women who were known, who were frequenting folks, and it ain't a big deal. It ain't an issue till it's an issue. You know, like they'll find to kick it Friday night, Saturday night, but when the sun come up on Sunday, Monday, then all of a sudden everybody's looking sideways. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. But I agree with your point. If that's your get down, then just do that.
My thing is, and this is, again, let me put my disclaimer. If I'm invited to something and that's what there are people there, it's a mixed crowd, and I don't give two ish, right? But myself, I'm not going to go where that's all it is. These guys is going to their own private affair. This is not like they went to some award show after party, or this was their own private affair. It's a little bit different when you're going to a place.
You know who's on the guest list.
There you go.
Yeah.
When you don't know who's on the guest list, it's one thing.
Yeah.
And it's another thing. That's just not my move, man. That's not saying that I'm not going to associate or affiliate. It's just not my move if I'm kicking it like that.
Oh, I get it. I've been to enough Hollywood parties where all of a sudden you know when it's time to go. Like, everybody knows when it's time to go home, and everybody knows what it is if you stay. Like them when it gets to those actors, actresses, singers, rappers, ball players, whatever. Them parties, you know when it's time to call it a night and go home, and you know what happens if you're going to stay to this next hour. To the same accord, drugs. I've been to enough functions where all of a sudden folks start doing stuff. I was never into drugs.
And exactly.
So if you, all right, this is where the party's turning. This is where I bow out because I'm not about this life.
Not at all.
And I'm going to go home. Same with the other activities.
Yes.
You are more than welcome to do what you do for you.
But
that's just not how I roll.
Right.
So this is where I gracefully bow out. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
And where this is important, where it shows not so much Bobby Valentino as the individual, but to the point to where his brand and his career is going to take a beating because
what career did he have?
Well, he's still working. So he's still touring. So he's still able to get a check. So maybe not what it was 10 years ago, but he can still get a check. But what happens now is what he's going to get roasted for. It's almost like you just have to put your hands at your side and just take this whooping, because if you retaliate, respond, or really try to come at it like saying, nah, I would never do this, that, and whatever, the LGBT community is so deep, they will flex on you something crazy. Because something that I think people don't get to is that in the United States of America, there are more LGBT members than there are African Americans.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Black people only make up roughly 12%.
Yes.
Admittedly, the nation is 15% homosexual. Admittedly. So you could probably curve that closer to 20, maybe even 25.
No.
So there are more people in the LGBT community than there are black people in America.
And then let's add to that. there are more powerful figures with influence.
Which is why I was going to go to A to B. So if they're a higher population and we're disorganized, we don't own, we don't produce, we're not on that side. So this is a group that has a larger number with greater influence, resources, access, and availability.
We don't have an Ellen.
No.
We had an Oprah, but she's no longer a talk show host. Steve Harvey, no one cares. And Al Sharpton, no one cares. And Ellen, she says one thing, your whole shit might get shut down.
But Ellen is the face of the franchise.
That's what I'm saying.
So you had Ellen, and who's homosexual, Rosie O'Donnell, homosexual. That's the last 20, 25 years. Their community has been at the forefront when it comes to talk shows. You know what I mean? Like they've had a face out there repping the team. You know, and saying with all that influence.
And then you have all of that influence, like I said, really when we broke it down, how they were able to get the gay marriages pushed. You had people in the ground and you had people in power positions.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. Don't think that they didn't have, government officials already ready to say, I'm ready to come out. Don't believe they didn't have big power wigs and record executives or, real movers and shakers
for the team.
That played for the team that was ready to push it with the money fact. So they had everything angled and everything collectively, and they fit one sole purpose of this is what we want to get done.
And why that is important to bring up is because that mold, that blueprint, is something that they're moving for whatever agendas that they need. And the fact that we don't move that way is why we're continuously getting boxed out. Because this current administration, old Donald J. Trump, number 45, old Donnie T.
Pussy grabber.
He's got this administration working on something right now that is all about flexing on what was regularly known as the disenfranchised. So right now, he's redirecting resources to the Justice Department in the Civil Rights Division. So right now, this administration is looking at going after policies that are deemed to discriminate against white applicants. So by way of hiring, by way of school enrollments, and not only are they looking at the policies, they're going for investigating as well as suing universities if they can find discrimination that keeps white students out of position. So we are at the point now to where you have something like affirmative action that was put in place that was supposed to give us a leg up, that was supposed to help out. This administration is looking at any university or any group that intentionally does race-based discrimination. So if they can find anywhere where a black or Latino, who's primarily who they're looking at, has ever gotten an opportunity over their white counterpart who had equal or greater grades, which was really the base principle of affirmative action, they're actually targeting it now because we're not in a position of organization to hold that or even take advantage of it. Like, black people don't take advantage of affirmative action.
No.
And if you're not familiar, white women are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action.
And every other culture is too.
Yeah. And so even for us, we don't even use it to our benefit because in areas that are, you take areas like D.C. or parts of Baltimore, areas that are 90% black, we don't understand the system, so we vote against our interests. We'll vote as minorities in a place that we're the majority, and then the minority benefits.
Yes, sir.
Like they'll say, we need to vote for minority rights. Yeah, but y'all make up the majority in this district.
So who gives a shit about the minority?
But we're so used to being disorganized and being called a minority. So there's like a 0.0% Asian population who gets all the benefits.
Yeah.
A 10% white area that gets all the benefits of affirmative action because we vote against our interests. So in any event, because we're not organized, like how the LGBT community is moving, organized, a united front, pushing the agenda, pushing the dollars, getting the policies that we need, we are getting edged out of every systemic thing that was put in place to give us even the slightest bit of leveling the playing field.
Well, the affirmative action, that's not gonna happen. They want to kind of cut it out. They want to just slice it and dice it. Not only fact of investigating the the historical black colleges, but they want to just slice it out and get rid of it overall. But here's my thing. As you just said, what it is, clearly white women they benefit the most.
Yeah.
And you will see white women show their power in this moment to make sure that this is something that we do not get pushed out of.
Yeah.
The reality is that Donald Trump continues to show that he's really not good for this country. He's only good for, the rich and those who have a special interest in his needs and their needs to stay filthy. The funny thing about Donald Trump with the whole administration, we don't even want to talk just directly with this affirmative action because this is just more added sprinkles to the ice cream that he's already layered up, right? He is exactly what white America believed that Obama would have been, what the first black president would have been. Exactly all of this hoopla, all of this bravado, all of this chaos, this scandal, the wordplay, just the incorrect information, just everything that this presidency has become in 7 months. This is exactly what they thought of the first black president would create because of the norm and behaviors that they see naturally from what they think is all stereotypical ideas of black America, that they're going to bring this same chaos. But Donald Trump has trumped that, really. Yeah. And when you hear these things, it's like our base isn't strong enough to combat this type of BS. And reality, if this stuff does go down and if it really works, you're now going to have blacks not being able to go to their own historical black colleges and more whites, not because they care, but just because they can.
Yes.
Just come to these colleges to flex their muscles. And it's still difficult for blacks because I work with students every day. These kids ain't running and getting accepted to all these different colleges unless they have some type of athletic prowess, unless their grades are over the top. There's still difficult things that these kids obstacles they go through just to get into these colleges. So the fact that historical black colleges are now being under attack when they lack the kind of funding that they need to be at a level of a higher level NAACP, an NCAA school. Yeah. Because they're not even on the level with the athletic programs. Yeah. Education, they can fight, but a lot of the facilities in a lot of these historical black colleges, they can't even compete against what these higher colleges in say Division I, like the Stanfords, the Berkeleys. You have a Howard University, you have a Hampton, but then you look at Stanford, you look at Berkeley, you look at the Princetons and Harvards. There's no comparing. So my thing is like, you're going to already brutalize and beat, because there could be a few cases where they could find, Fisk University wasn't meeting the qualifications, right? And what are you going to do? Take more funding away from them? Yes. You're going to hit them with a lawsuit that's going to basically bury them?
Yes, because now if you're on the conspiracy theorist side of the game, there is a movement that has been drafted by a lot of the HBCUs to go heavy drafting, more or less recruiting, for black athletes to go to an HBCU as opposed to a traditional NCAA school.
And they should.
Well, the reason being is that if you can start pooling all of the prominent athletes into HBCUs and then starting that collegiate league based among HBCUs where all the top prospects, if you want to see the best college football, the best college basketball, you have to go through the HBCU circuit. If that's the case, that's going to offset what happens through the NFL, NBA draft. That's the precursor to starting a new league. Yeah. What that would do to the church's money is pull the rug out from up under.
The game will be changed.
So if you can say, if there is no there is no Cam coming out of the NCAA, because Cam plays for Howard. You don't get Alonzo Ball at UCLA
because he plays for Southern.
Yeah. So now what that does is for all the NCAA viewership, the TV deals, the EA Sports, all that stuff is now pulled out of those pockets into the HBCU and into black hands. Now you start looking at, you've got funding and resources to start, maybe small to begin with, but a pro football league, which is 75% black anyway. Same with the NBA, which is 80% black.
Niggles ain't ready.
And then, but if you're somebody who's saying, I don't like where this is going,
I'm going to go ahead and do
so.
something.
Let me now jump on board. Let's just put the kibosh on the HBCUs from the jump. We ain't even going to get down this road.
Yeah.
And that's where organization and being about that action comes in. Look, I heard that these HBCUs are trying to band together. They're trying to get their own league. They're trying to cut out our pockets. They're trying to take away from the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and all that. Nah, son. We need to go ahead and get ahead of this.
Because it's not about education. It's about billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah,
it's revenue.
So if you're of those people, that's a pretty good idea to go after those colleges and start looking for any discrepancy that you can start hitting.
Because you're going to find one.
Yeah, and so then you start hitting them with penalties, and then you say, okay, we're going to cripple these schools to where they're not going to get anybody over there, and we can stop this train before it even starts. So I mean that and
then when you start trickling down more whiteness and schools that, let's be honest with you, are already connected to whiteness, you just really take away that soul. And it's just like going to a white person's soul food restaurant.
Yeah, which I'm saying I think is part of the plan.
It may be good, but it ain't great.
It ain't the same.
It's just not what it is.
It ain't the same. Because I think where we're at now is that a lot of this is trying to get ahead of the organization on this side, trying to break up the coming together, trying to break up the free thinkers, trying to break up the potential problems.
Yeah.
They don't want a congregation of universities who are producing teams of Colin Kaepernicks. They don't want a full division of Kaepernicks. They don't want a whole class that comes out like-minded.
Like Missouri.
Yeah. They don't want that.
They don't want that.
But see, the issue with Missouri is they had an opportunity within their school to protest and get the change that they wanted, still within the confines of the NCAA system for that.
And then after
school.
that, the NCAA did make a rule after that.
Yeah, but if you're talking about we're removing ourselves from the system and building our own, where you don't have the control to flex, yeah, they ain't trying to have that. And it's been proven that shutting down the Colin Kaepernick has been a prime example of shutting down the troublemakers.
Oh, yeah.
Shutting down the problem child, all the way to the point of their own detriment, if you're not heard about how he's the issue in Baltimore. So Colin Kaepernick's been meet with the Baltimore Ravens for the last week and a half, whatever. Primarily because their current quarterback, Joe Flacco, has had some major back injuries, and nobody is projecting him to play 16 games. Like, there's nobody who thinks Joe Flacco is going to get through a 16-game season. Nobody. Nobody in that organization, nobody in the league. The backups are garbage. So the head coach is John Harbaugh, is Jim's brother, who was Kaepernick's former coach. And he's very familiar with them.
Very familiar. I mean, they played against each other in the Super Bowl.
And his brother coached him. So you get all the backstory, the inside information. And Ozzie Newsome, who runs the team, runs the office, loves him. Loves the energy he brings. They both wanted Colin Kaepernick. They both to this moment, want him as the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. The owner said no. The owner, he didn't say no. He said, well, we're going to think about it some more. Yeah. And it's because...
Didn't they go and ask the people?
Yeah. When polled the people, polled the stuff. And you got to remember, the climate population of Baltimore, he's fine there. The public of Baltimore is fine with Colin Kaepernick because of the makeup and the demographic of that area.
Well, I mean, they got all type of crooked cops getting caught up with planning evidence and stuff like that.
Yeah, just the different. If this was New England, if this was Boston, it'd be hell no. But Baltimore is fine with Colin Kaepernick. He is really, for all those things, he's not high on the radar of things to address. But showing how deeply ingrained the system is and how the system's got so many faces, the folks coming out still speaking against him. You had Ray Lewis who came on.
But Ray Lewis was one of the beginning of folks that came out.
Yeah, Ray Lewis came on Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, more or less campaigning, telling Kaepernick to shut up. You need to do your activism in quiet. You need to keep that to yourself. Even former NFL player Cordell Stewart, former quarterback.
That's the Negro that needs to come out of the closet as well.
Cocaine Cordell came out and he was saying, yeah, you need to shut up, close your mouth. play football. Leave all that activism stuff alone.
What the Negro, the silly Negroes as I like to call them, when they get paid such a top dollar to stay in Daddy Daycare's Grace, Master's hen house, they will do every and anything. You have to understand, there is no way a guy like Ray Lewis is going to ever speak against the laws that saved him, right? He should be
murder rap, right?
Life.
Yeah.
But because his life was more valuable on the football field, he was spared. Bottom line, he was spared. Cordell Stewart, another silly Negro who speaks this, who was at the Cubs could have been a superstar at the league. I mean, because he had that, he was like a slash kind of quarterback.
He could play wide receiver. He could play quarterback. He had an arm. He had an arm.
They never really went there, but there was always some kind of sticky things in his outside of football prowess that we always thought like, it's kind of
He should have played for the Cowboys with his off-the-field issues.
He had some issues. Now, you have all these so-called NFL alum speaking about issues. Remember, we're talking about a player that didn't kill anyone, that didn't get a DUI and crash into someone's car and kill them, doesn't have a coke habit, hasn't got caught with pounds of marijuana, hasn't been caught in a scandal with some trifling strippers and cocaine in the backseat of his trunk. We're talking about a guy that said, because of the injustice against blacks, I am not going to stand up to the flag because I feel like right now this flag doesn't mean as much as it stands on. People are upset, and you have a president sitting in office that is probably linked to a scandal, election scandal, might add you, with the Russians. Firing everybody he can, making obscene comments anytime he gets on Twitter or gets a mic. You're trying to tell me that in the 7 months of this man being president, all of the people that he's disrespected, all of the rage that he's created, and then you look at a league that has allowed, let's not forget, why did I forget this one? Woman beaters. Women who have gotten beat up to the point of almost dying, they've let those players back, right? Without repercussions until there was repercussions, because the community, the people, the activists, right? Groups that came out and said, you're going to give who 2 games? Did you not see what he did to her? That has allowed a kicker that admitted to beating his wife on several different occasions. Give him 4 games after they had that media blitz with Ray Rice knocking out his girlfriend at that particular time in an elevator, and they only wanted to give him 2 games. You got this media storm of all of these different things happening in the NFL, and let's not forget when they were told that the violent game that they play could possibly have CTE. What is it, CTE?
CTE, yeah.
And kind of put that under the rug and didn't say nothing to no one, and now have had to pay millions and millions upon millions of dollars because of players dying and this information that was hidden. You're trying to tell me that this Colin Kaepernick, who just did the right thing, cannot find a team to play for?
Well, that's my point on the organizational side. Because you instead of these past players and current players banding behind their brother,
they should shut up.
Okay, so instead of these ones, not even necessarily the ones who are speaking out against him, it's not the organization of the ones that agree with him. So throughout the 53-man roster on the 32 teams, he is not the only guy who feels this way out of all those rosters of all those teams. But because there's no organization and no coming together with him, they leave him out there as the lone branch, dangling in the wind. These other groups are coming out, deep organization for against battered women. They came with the thunder,
guns blazing,
to make sure. Now here's the funny part.
Even with Adrian Peterson.
But the funny part is about the ones who are coming out, the past players who are critiquing Kaepernick and addressing the way he is. The funny one is Mike Vick. So Mike Vick's the one that came out and said Colin needs to cut his hair. He needs to clean up his act. He needs to revamp himself. This is the same guy who, right after he gave all that stuff telling Kaepernick to clean his up, a petition signed by 100,000 people to keep him off the Virginia Tech Hall of Fame.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He came out telling him everything that Kaepernick was doing wrong. How he needed to clean himself up. How he was doing this. Stop his protest. Like, he is just the guy to tell him, this is what you need to do. Right after he had that interview, 2 days later, 100,000 people signed a petition to keep him out of that Collegiate Hall of Fame for Virginia Tech.
Now, when you think about all of the more vocal individuals that have come and spoke up on it, Colin Kaepernick and what he should do, and what he shouldn't do, think about all of these guys that you're talking about. Every single one of them that they've put up there. Thank you.
Felons. And why I set all that stuff up for one guy in particular who wrote a great piece, and he addressed Kaepernick, and I think that he has got the resume to speak on it, was Kareem. So Kareem wrote a piece because Kareem in his heyday, back even pre-Laker, he got together with Jim Brown and Ali and all them, really addressing social issues at a time where he could really risk it all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't a dude who's been retired 5 years and then speaking from the peanut gallery. Like, he could have really risked it all right then and there, when he was really trying to go out and get it. And he was willing to, because he saw that the need of his people was greater than the job he worked at. He used the platform to have a voice. He was saying, more or less telling the Ray Lewises and the Cordell Stewarts to go to hell. He was saying, they always try to tell you, just play ball and shut up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear all that. Just run with the ball. Just punt, pass, kick. Just entertain me and shut the F up. And he was saying, nah, this is what you're supposed to do. No. You don't do activism in silence.
No.
You don't bring attention to stuff, in the cuts and in the corners and just send a check. No. Be that dude. Be that face. Be that franchise that are putting it on your back and let the chips fall where they may. And I think we need guys like that to organize around brothers who are willing to take those types of stands, because these other groups' organization is deep.
Yeah.
When they want to get something going, they've got the togetherness and the resources and on the like-mindedness to make it happen.
And they also embrace the blow.
Yeah.
They are okay with that fist. They're okay with that rock being thrown. You know what I'm saying? They're okay with some people swinging that bat. They stay and they stand and they deliver. It's a sad reality that we live in for Black America, blacks around the world. Because even when you know what someone is standing for is right, we still consider it wrong. Like, we still collectively are saying, well, he shouldn't have. Well, damn. Have we just lost the focus on why he is?
Yeah.
Why are we paying attention to the reaction instead of focusing on the action that created the reaction? Why are we stepping away from that? That becomes the fuel that lights my fire and why I speak the way I speak, and I won't be moved and I won't tolerate the hoopla or the silly Negroes, the Negro peens, or the puppeteers, or the puppets, and the Negroes that want to coon around, because it's coonery. You cannot tell me that him kneeling affected anyone. You're not patriotic because you didn't kneel for a flag, or you didn't stand up, or whatever. You kneeled instead of standing. That's a crime. But yet and still, when you were a young guy, You're a young guy. You're running around here, big willing, and there's 2 men that came up dead. But yet and still, when you were the big shot, there were people running a dog ring in your home. Get what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, here are these moments, Mr. Cornrow Michael Vick. Did you not remember that the reason why we fell in love with you is because you stood out?
Yeah.
Because you was a little different. You was a little more bravado. You was a little bit more radical. And now, just to keep a job, Negroes want to conform. And that becomes the problem. That's why the problem with integration has always been an issue, because when you integrated, you sat there and gave away collectively who we were as individuals, instead of just allowing them to say, you know, you're going to respect me for who I am. I'm not going to integrate into your system because I want to create my own system. Because once you integrate into another person's system, guess what? They control. And because they control, they dictate. And now they dictate, they got the minions, the coons, saying however, whatever they want to say to really make the narrative as if Colin Kaepernick did something wrong. And he didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't. The integration part, we'll touch on that on another show, because that's a lot of layers to that one. And something which I do agree with you. I think that where we're at with the Kaepernicks and the other people who are maybe feel the same way, there's a principle that I always remembered, and I think that it applies to us as a people so often, and it is the W you so desperately want is tucked behind the L that you afraid to take. So a lot of us is that there's that we want this equality. We want this. We want to come together. We want to be recognized and to be heard. That's the W. But it's tucked behind that L you scared to take.
No.
You're afraid to lose your job.
No.
You're afraid to be cast out of the good graces of the society that you spent your entire life basing your self-worth off of.
No.
You know, that you scared to have your friends not be your friends anymore.
Yeah.
You know, your phone quit ringing.
Well, I mean, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, so for him, he's not afraid to take the L. Now, granted, he has conformed his protest. He said he's willing to stand.
Yeah.
He's already passed the point of no longer kneeling. He said he's willing to stand.
And that's one thing I kind of like, come on, you should have just kind of... But you see, it didn't matter what you did. As soon as you piss people off...
Which is what I'm saying. So so for the people who are like, he's this, that, whatever, well, no, he's willing to stand. And we have a lot of players that don't put their hand over their heart, who, for whatever their nationality or their religious ideology. There's a lot of guys that don't put their hand over it but still stand. But for all the other ones who are afraid to take that L, who are the ones who were sitting there like, yeah, I really agree with Colin and I respect what he's doing. I ain't about to do that.
Yeah.
That's where we have to get our organization. That's where we have to rally behind each other, because the other forces are organized.
Yeah.
The infiltrators, the ones who are coming to take the movement out at the ankles, they are organized like a motherfucker.
And they know how to separate us by a check.
Yeah.
Because it really just comes down to a check. It comes down to money. If we were organized and had our own, like if there was a black network that was on the level of talking about sports, like a Fox, like an ESPN, that Ray Lewis knows, because he got cut from ESPN.
I can go over there
and go to Fox. I would go over there and I would be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more black power about my stance about Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
I got to remember, well, I just got cut off from ESPN.
They laid everybody off. Yeah.
They ain't too many other places aside to Fox that's trying to build their brand.
Yeah.
The NBC sports don't got nothing popping like this that I can do what I do best and speak. I might want to watch out what I'm going to say. And because the game has been good to me and Mass has been good to me, and I know I don't want to open up that door, I'm going to sit there and say, I'm not going to look at the cause and the effect, but I'm going to sit there and say, and this is the same man, Ray Lewis, that had a meeting with Donald Trump because it's for the betterment of black folk, but here we're talking about affirmative action, right? That it would be something that us young men and women could look at and have pride in saying, wow, we have some Negroes that can stand up. Not saying they have to agree on everything that Colin Kaepernick did, but be willing to sit there and say, I stand by my brother. I appreciate what he's doing, and I'm not going to throw him out there or debate. Sometimes, you know what? It's best to not say nothing if you're going to say something stupid.
Yeah, if you and what I look at is I think it's even past the point of even being a check, because some of the dudes out there, money is not the issue. Like they're
I think.
Well, no, but I'm so just follow this part. I think the big picture part of it, that fear, that L, is being out of the good graces of the system.
But I honestly feel,
if you got 9 figures,
you know what?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you got to remember, you got 9 figures, and you can lose that 9 figures quick. I don't really think necessarily it's being just a part of the club. I honestly think that the club is the only one giving them the money.
Well, no, but I'm saying for the ones who have, say for the guys who played and are done, 9 figures. They're not on net. They don't have network jobs or anything. If you come out and start speaking, backing him, you have now removed yourself from the good graces of the game. You're not invited to the parties anymore. Folks ain't hanging out with you anymore. Folks aren't, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not getting checks because you don't work for these networks anyway. Now it's just at the point that you just like to be a member of the group. You like to be in the good graces of the system.
But I think
there's a lot of dudes who are like that. Nobody was checking for Cordell Stewart.
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying? Like,
but I think that some people get outed for less things. I mean, we have seen blackballing before. Let's be honest. Like, for instance, in basketball, we've seen Isaiah Ryder get blackballed. We saw eventually Dennis Rodman get blackballed for numerous amount of things. You know what I mean? It took some time for Dennis Rodman to get blackballed, but he eventually got blackballed. They were done with his show. Even Allen Iverson. Some of these players.
I make a difference between Iverson and Rodman. Because Rodman even played audition for the Lakers back when Phil was over there. But eventually
their show was canceled. Like, they was like, you know what? We don't care how much talent you have, you're gone, right?
Yeah.
And certain things I see that the blackballing happens. I mean, it even happened till after a while. Latrell Sprewell, as soon as he sat there and said, "Hey, I need some more money to feed my kids in Minnesota," Latrell Sprewell was still averaging like 20 points a game. They're like, "Okay, you know what? We're not going to deal with you because remember, you're still the choke guy."
Yeah, see, that's why I look. I would be. I guess we got to. Well, we'll save those things. Yeah, I understand. I agree with you in the sense that there's been guys who've been X'd out the game for less, or for other things.
Yeah, for other things.
But
so what I'm basically saying is, at the end of the day, here is this guy that he's probably the only quarterback in 49er history to really be able to handle a team like the Green Bay Packers that have always been a perennial dominating team that gave the Niners everything they wanted, and the Niners had a difficult time. Well, Colin Kaepernick just handled them gracefully and still had an upside. Yes, he has had some down years, but let's look at the reality of his down years. He is still, with the talent that he has, still a sure bet to become a great quarterback, being put in the right position in the right place. For the fact that he does not have a job and he, took in a team to the Super Bowl, and it's not like he's just such a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, if you're not going to sit there and say this is being blackballed, then I don't know what is.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying. That's why I stress the significance of the organization, about how you can have the LBGT community come through, and when they hear something remotely that they don't like, show up in force and show up in droves to make that known that I don't care what you thought it was, or if you're the one who said it or not, we're not going to have this rhetoric spouted on your show or your station ever again. Like, that's the stamp that they put on that Breakfast Club interview. They're like, it was Duval. I don't care. But our employee didn't say nothing. I don't care. It aired on your airwaves, so you need to address it. That's the organization level that they were moving at. And you've got these groups that are moving through, trying to systematically come through and adjust the way that universities do their admissions, because they have a certain agenda that they're trying to get pushed. So if we're recognizing that in this system and in this world, all the opposition is moving in force, everybody else is coming with a team, that we have to start getting behind our dudes, our men and women who are coming out there, who are speaking on behalf of us. You don't have to agree with every aspect of their life. You don't have to root for the team they played for. You don't have to agree with all of their mentality. But if you got somebody who's out there willing to risk their career, speaking on a bulk of people that don't directly apply to him. Granted, he'll always be black, and there may be issues with police brutality, but the most of the stuff he's speaking to is not speaking from firsthand experience. He's speaking for the people who don't have the voice, in the areas where they're more likely than him to be affected. And if we can't sit there and gravitate behind him or people like him who have agendas and platforms that they're trying to use to make our personal life better, we are going to get beat every which way to Sunday, because you see the opposition, not only the direct one, they've got a full team that's going against him, and then they've got plants on the inside trying to dismantle the movement. Like, we're going to have to start recognizing that type of organization. We're going to have to start addressing and coming together, leaving our petty differences aside, and really getting behind those people who are really trying to push for us.
Well, I think, the unfortunate thing is, as you talk about the group standing again with other individuals saying, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't hear any of the black organizations saying, you know what, we're standing, we're going to boycott. And that is the trivial thing. It's like, this is exactly what a Negro will get done to. You talk about the Malcolms, you talk about the Martin Luther Kings, definitely they got killed for this, but they're going to do you differently. They're going to sit there and say, you know what, we are going to take away what can make you money, your earnings, and we're going to remove you from this game and show you our power. And no one in the black community with power who's organized has stepped up and said, Colin, we got your back, because we're going to push the NFL to make sure things get done. They still want to collectively create this idea that it's not about that issue. Guess what? It's just the player. He's not good enough for the league, which is bullshit.
And these are the type of things we need to address, that we need to get behind and be vocal about for not only ourselves, but get behind those people who are really pushing that hard line for us. And when you see these things and you see those people and you see those movements happening, get yourself involved, get yourself active, and most definitely say something.
Say something, say something.
I'm Jermaine Morris with Barry Accius. Where can folks find you online?
Barry Accius, Facebook, Barry Accius, Twitter, and at Instagram, it is Team Void.
I'm Jermaine Morris on Facebook. Every other social media platform, it is at JMorrisCEO. Second extra special shout out to at BB Sketch on Instagram. If you check out the brother's got great artistic work. He's hooking us up with some visuals soon to come at you. Until next show, I'm Jermaine Morris here with Barry Accius.
Yes, sir.
And we'll holler at you later.